Wynncraft is a server that's built an entire fleshed out MMORPG game inside of Minecraft. They even have a Guinness World Record if that's something people still care about. But naturally, a project like this would be ludicrously expensive. In fact, I believe it's the second most expensive Minecraft server ever made. The thing is, Wynncraft doesn't have 40,000 players, so how can it even afford to exist? To understand, we need to look at the server's origin and the 5 strategies they use that other servers don't. And one of these strategies is not exactly ethical. It all started with a man named Salted. When he wasn't playing popular MMOs like Diablo and RuneScape, he was making little artistic things on the internet. And one of these projects was a YouTube channel called Crafted Movie that made pretty creative Minecraft skits. Pretty quickly, there were a bunch of hits like the Simpsons opening in Minecraft that even got retweeted by Notch. But one day, a random commenter asked for a Crafted Movie Minecraft server. Salted replied that he had no idea how to set that up. But by pure chance, a developer called Joomla saw this. He messaged Salted through YouTube DMs, and then they added each other on Skype. Together, they created a whitelisted survival server, and one player who joined was a guy named Grian, who was pretty good at building. Salted wanted him on the team, but he didn't really have any money to pay the guy, so in exchange, Grian became the 3rd co-owner. But then Salted had an idea. When he was younger, he'd tried to make his own RPG game because he was such a fan of the genre, but it was just too hard. Now though, Minecraft was adding lots of RPG elements like potions, hunger, and horses. He had a builder, a developer, a YouTube channel to promote it. What if they just made it in Minecraft? Before Wynncraft was created, a Minecraft MMORPG was considered fundamentally impossible by the wider community. It had cost millions of dollars to maintain. You couldn't possibly fit all the people in one server. The original idea was much smaller than what the server became, but it still ended up being super hard and they almost couldn't finish it. The map only had a couple cities, such as Ragni. The name is actually an anagram of Grian. The gameplay was also pretty uninspiring. You just ran around and killed mobs and that was it. The only players were just people who had moved over from the old Crafted Movie server, so the community was tiny. But this was only the beginning. With the next update, the map grew to a network of areas that allowed for genuine exploration, which brings me to the first strategy Wynn uses. The gameplay was one of a kind, especially for its time. And not just because it's a creative idea, it's also really fucking hard to replicate. Even today, I can count every remotely successful Minecraft MMO on one hand. But being this unique was a double-edged sword. Most players find Minecraft servers through server list websites, and the vast majority of those players are looking for specific game modes like Prison or Skyblock. Obviously, this makes Wynncraft a pain to advertise. So instead of relying on that, Salted decided to try something else. He made an official trailer to post on Crafted Movie, and things were going great. But the trailer kept growing and growing and... it's not stopping! This may sound like a good thing, but Wynn existed in a half-baked, unfinished state. Many of the systems, like custom items, had to be redone from the ground up. This was just too much publicity too fast. Besides that, let's be real, early Wynncraft fucking sucked. There was jack shit to do. Salted knew if he was gonna live up to the hype he just created, they need to add more content and fast. So the obvious choice was a staple of the MMO genre: quests. Salted created 24 quests to start out with. Later on this would be handled by Grian, but for now it was just him. The quests were pretty simple, but it was still a hell of a lot better than none at all. Next, they followed this up with the Ocean update, which almost doubled the size of the map. When it first came out though, the admins purposely didn't update the website map, forcing people to find all of the new stuff on their own, which is a great example of the second strategy Wynn uses: Easter eggs. The new islands were far from the only secrets on the server. Easter eggs like these are actually a very well-known way for marketers to build community. It lets people talk about, why does this exist? How did you find that? And it adds a ton of replayability. Later on, Wynn even doubled down by turning Easter eggs into the more official secret discoveries. And all this effort into developing the server was finally about to pay off. Huge YouTubers like In the Littlewood caught wind of how sick the server was and made multiple videos on it. This resulted in an insane peak of over 4,000 online players, which felt awesome for Salted and the team. However, not everyone was as pleased. By this point, Wynncraft had completely lost its feel as a tight-knit community. Which is fine, I mean, there's only so much you can do, but Salted would have to work extra hard to keep this community alive going forward. Luckily, after some intense brainstorming, the team came up with their 3rd strategy: hype. They began planning their biggest update yet, called Gavel. This update would once again double the size of the map, along with it adding dozens of new quests, a new max level of 100 up from 75, and a proper texture pack so the wands wouldn't just look like horse armor anymore. But instead of just randomly dropping this update like the last few times, they took the opportunity to hype the fuck out of it. First, they hosted Gavel Week, where every day Grian would livestream himself building some of the new areas. He posted some proper teaser videos too, although his channel was really starting to take off by this point, so he wasn't able to contribute a whole lot more than that. That left Salted to take over by tweeting cryptic shit. However, by this point, months had gone by without a proper release date. The community was getting frustrated and wondered if it was really worth the wait. So, to tide them over, Wynn released a much smaller update, which they used to hide yet another teaser for Gavel at the end of a quest. After that, they posted the proper trailer.
For over 1,000 years, the villagers have denied entrance to any non-native races to maintain the purity of their province, Gavel.
Yo, why are you twerking at the door?
Fucking idiot, don't be stupid, I'm unlocking it.
Where is it? Where is it? Aha! A release date! The last few weeks leading up to the release were filled with an obnoxious amount of teasers until, on the 20th of December, it finally released. Hyping things up, along with the two other strategies I mentioned earlier, are really what give Wynncraft its disproportionately strong community. Despite not being mainstream, there's dozens of Wynncraft YouTubers consistently making videos that get like 500 views just because they really enjoy it. And this strong community lets the server exist as sort of an island, more disconnected from trends in the wider landscape. Think about YouTubers you watch and you'll see exactly what I mean. The stronger their audience, the less they have to rely on chasing trends to get views. Unfortunately, the Gavel teaser trailer was also the last video Crafted Movie would ever post. Declining growth on the channel finally caused it to get begrudgingly abandoned. RIP, bro. This meant they'd be relying on Grian for promotion, which was iffy because he was spending less and less time on the server. Sooner or later, they'd need to think of something else. To be honest though, Salted had much more pressing concerns. The 2015 EULA changes, which basically banned servers from selling anything pay to win. Wynncraft was one of the servers that had to make some pretty big changes in order to comply. But even after these changes, their store is still pretty shady. If you hadn't already guessed, Wynncraft's fourth strategy is selling you borderline gambling. Yeah, you heard me. They sell randomized loot boxes and shares you can sell on a trade market. They also kind of work around the pay-to-win restrictions in a couple of ways. On one hand, this sucks. I'm sure a few people can trace their gambling addictions back to these loot boxes. It's a well-studied problem. But on the other hand, a server at Wynn's scale literally could not exist without them. According to Salted, the hosting and development costs alone are over $40,000 a month. It reminds me of CoffeeZilla's videos on Counter-Strike if you've seen those. Because unethical gambling websites are so ubiquitous in that community, and they sponsor literally everything surrounding it, not taking that money is shooting yourself in the foot. I don't think Minecraft servers are quite at that level yet, but as long as Mojang allows unethical gambling to happen, not participating means the servers that do will out-earn you. Still, I really do not like that it's included. Avoid the loot boxes and probably also the Silver Bowl shares if you decide to check out the server. Anyway. Like with any update, Gavel was far from perfect. There is a distinct lack of content past level 90 and several infuriating glitches. Many of the features promised were late or just never came out. And this all primed the environment for Wynn's first major competitor to gain traction. Zentrello was a similar MMORPG server that managed to attract a lot of Wynn's community who'd grown disillusioned with it. This coincided with a big thread on the Wynncraft forums criticizing the server and some of its staff. Eventually, it got deleted, but this actually marked things finally starting to turn around. Wynncraft actually decided to hire a community manager to act as a bridge with the admins, and this made an enormous difference. Zentrello also majorly fumbled because the owner just got bored and shut it down. So luckily, Salted got off easy this time, but this was a major wake-up call, which was well-timed because their next competitor was created by the largest Minecraft server ever made.
So Hypixel recently released their own unique take on the skyblock genre. So basically you spawn on your own island, you cut down a tree, you bridge over to the other island, and then you log into Wynncraft.
Uh-oh. Or so you'd think, actually this was not that big of a deal. Turns out the player base is separate enough, and it's different enough as a game to where it's just not really a competitor. But Wynncraft was still having its own problems. By this point, Grian had basically left the team. He was still in the Discords and everything, but he had his own career to worry about, and it didn't make sense for him to keep promoting Wynncraft. Without him or Crafted Movie, Wynn had no way to promote itself. Luckily though, a totally freak accident, insane, random event would come to save the day. And this was the creation of COVID-19. COVID lockdown led to a massive boost to their player base, but instead of just throwing a party, Salted used the extra COVID profits to invest hard into a new huge update. And it was a bit of a gamble. Like, what if making the content better didn't actually lead to more players? What if it was a total waste of money? But surprisingly, there actually was a noticeable increase in players. I was honestly kind of surprised to see this, and it restores my faith in humanity a bit to see actual effort being rewarded. But they didn't stop there. This brings me to their 5th and final strategy, avoiding complacency. Sometime after this update, Salted heard about a new cool server called Origin Realms, and after logging on, he couldn't sleep that night. Origin Realms had an entirely custom user interface made with only a texture pack, and Salted realized, this is the future. We gotta do that. Wynncraft was doing well, and plenty of other owners might have just let it continue to be a cash cow. But instead, Salted worked to massively hype up the new Rekindled update that would, among other things, totally revamp the UI. Luckily though, he didn't make people wait nearly as long as Gavel. With the release of Rekindled, Wynncraft hit its all-time peak of over 5,500 players, forcing him to buy dozens more servers to fit everyone at once. Wynncraft's managed to carve out a niche of dedicated players in a time where Minecraft servers are not as big as they once were. Competitors do exist, but I think Wynn is more than capable of staying ahead, and it won't be going anywhere anytime soon. This is one of the few cases of a passion project that managed to do something genuinely incredible and succeed past people doing it just for money. And if you enjoyed my coverage of it, I'd really appreciate if you subscribed, and have a great rest of your day. If you enjoyed this video, check out my video on Hypixel, the actual most expensive server ever made, like I clickbaited in this video.